Welcome back to Impactology Live. Our next guest speaker is Paul Harrison. Paul is the owner of both Magic Hand Car Wash and Zib Digital Marketing Business. With the experience that Paul has gained over the years, he mentors business leaders and startups, and he's certainly an entrepreneur within his own right. Understanding the challenges and stresses that come with owning your own business or running a big corporate is where Paul can help, absolutely, with empathy and motivation when it's needed. Paul works with both large and SME clients as a partner in their digital marketing services, and he also runs the Magic Hand Car Wash national franchise digital and partner marketing program for 20 stores. He works with organisations like ZipPay, Liberty Financial, Sherbrooke Homes and Thirsty Camel, to name a few, who have created great campaigns and growth. Welcome to Impactology Live, Paul.
Thank you very much for having me. It's great to be here.
And great to have you. As we have done with all our other speakers today, if anyone is joining the live stream and would like to ask questions, please go ahead and do so, and we will make sure that Paul receives those questions throughout the course of the session. So Paul, a little bit of background so people can get to know you in your own words other than the introduction. I should say that as per our last speaker, you also have worked with George in the past, and I asked our last speaker, Radic, give us a little bit of dirt on George, and I'm going to ask you the same thing. It's just sucks to be George because he's got two in a row right now, but give us a little bit of dirt.
I did miss what I actually got the end of Radic, and I didn't really get to hear what he said. But so I would say that what goes on inside Village Cinema's business stays inside Village Cinema's business.
You're a loyal bunch, aren't you? We got nothing out of Radic either.
Couldn't possibly give anything away. I think it's we're a family, and it's always been that way. Always will be that way.
Fair enough. There's that loyalty coming through.
That's it.
Paul, can you share with us your background? I mean, obviously you've got a couple of businesses on the go. You're a busy guy. We have both had the pleasure of being on your Harrow show on a Tuesday morning. Tell us a little bit about you and what are your current focuses?
Yeah, so look, I've had a bit of a journey in my career, and as you've just mentioned, I've worked at all different types of industries and places, Village being one of them. And previously, I've lived and worked in Singapore and done some work with retail companies like Pandora, Joe and the Juice. There's some pretty big businesses that we work with over in Asia, and I came back to Australia and decided that it was time for me to start my own business. And my brother was already in the business of car washing with Magic Hand Car Wash, and so I decided that I'd try my hand going from the corporate world into the car washing business. So, I became a front-facing, customer-facing person and leader in the business, and gradually we decided that from a strategic point of view that we would combine our talents and buy stores and sell them, build them up and sell them, and that's pretty much what we've done over the period of time. We've still got a store left, and we've still got some other businesses going on, which is great. And then I decided that I was getting a bit, sort of a bit bored. It's probably my itchy feet and entrepreneurial, desires. I decided that I would go and get stuck into a slight tangent in my career and go and do some marketing. And I sort of felt that it was probably needed. I felt like that there needed to be a retail person and very customer service driven person and someone with experience come into the marketing field. I felt that there's quite a lot of people in marketing who are especially in the sales component, that are happy to sell. But I felt that there's probably a lack of understanding of overall 360 degrees of what goes on in a business, and that marketing is only one part of that. So I just felt that I had something to give, and I had something to offer in terms of other business owners, and it just, as it turns out, it's been probably one of the best decisions I've ever made. I've really found the thing that I'm really happy doing and I love doing. And so when you're passionate about these sorts of things, I guess it helps, in whatever you're doing with your work. So that's sort of the story in a nutshell.
Good, and they do say that when you love your work as much as you do, it actually doesn't feel like work at all. And that certainly comes through. The passion that you've described there certainly comes through. So thank you for sharing that. Who have been your key influences in your career to date? Who's really shifted your focus, perhaps got you to think about things in a different way?
Probably early on, I had a couple of mentors. People like John Swan, who's now I think might be COO of Grilled. He was one of my early area managers when I was a store manager and running a small family sports store called Hannah Sports, which is no longer around, unfortunately. He really gave me a good grounding in what customer service and retail and all that looks like, and operations, process, people management, all those sort of things. And then that sort of was enhanced when I then went across to Village, and I had the great man Jared Garner from down in Geelong. If anyone from Village knows him, you'll know he's the stalwart of the cinema industry, and I was very fortunate to work under him as my first part of working in the cinema industry. And so I got to cut my teeth on managing large teams and large groups of people, being very operational and trying to make sure that the customers are happy and have a great experience. And then I went across eventually into the fashion, and I had some great mentors in fashion. And I think the fact that I moved across different industries allowed me to have different types of mentors in different areas. I then went across to Telstra, and I had a number of really good mentors there. Very different business again. Matrix management is a very different kettle of fish. So everywhere I've gone, I've been very fortunate not only to build great networks of people, but also have great mentorship and have people that have influenced me along the way. Of course, my father's always there and ringing in my ear. There wouldn't be a day that he doesn't have something to say. And I might say not always positive, and we don't always agree, but that's life. And we agree to disagree sometimes. And Radic himself, like I still talk to Radic today. We probably don't catch up as much as we should, but we maybe every 3 to 6 months we're catching up and have a chat and just about what's going on. So it's quite amazing how you can, through your career, build relationships that last the test of time, and those people are still still in your life and still offering advice where you need it, whenever you need it. So it's really nice to have those things to fall back on.
And I think the investments in those relationships, it's often as much as you put in is what you get out. And we're big believers of lifelong learning. It's part of why we commenced Impactology, because it's about that ongoing desire to create impact, but also to learn from others. And so what you've shared there, and even sometimes when we don't agree, sometimes, as we've heard from a couple of presenters today, if you've got that big juicy layer of trust, then you can afford to move into conversations where you might not always agree with them, but their advice, you can still take on boards, or onboard components of it. I'm interested in a little bit more about the leap that you made from corporate to being an entrepreneur and now running a couple of businesses. George and I often speak about it around shedding the identity and shedding that corporate identity. What can you share about those experiences for others that are looking potentially to make the same move?
Yes, it's quite a leap, and it is very different when you jump out of corporate. That security blanket is really gone. And so I think the stresses are different. You don't have necessarily stresses of KPIs, let's say, and meetings to be at, and all these things that you need to be doing. Your stresses are probably at a lower level in terms of the things you've got to focus on. I would, probably when I was at Telstra, I would care about customer service, but when I was running a car wash, I would care about every single customer service, because every single person I was able to speak to, touch, and get involved and have an interaction with. So that's how you build a business from the ground. So in terms of that, I guess the granular level, you certainly will find that there's a big difference in terms of that. And then I think there's just, with any business, you just have to know that when you step into a new business, it's unless you're very, very lucky, 9 times out of 10, it's very hard work. It's a big commitment. It's a grind. It's 12 months minimum of probably not much money coming in, but commitment to what your plan is and sticking with that overall strategy that you set out to do, and really backing yourself, having faith, having a bit of courage to sort of shed that identity and be who you are. And I think a lot of people have been probably tied their identities to their titles and their companies, and I'd certainly would say that was me. And having now almost built my own brand from a personal point of view. Outside of that, that takes time. It actually takes time to find out who you are and work that out for yourself and what you feel comfortable in sort of how you project yourself and the things that you stand for. So I think that there's a lot of things to work through on many different levels when you make that leap. And I would say to anyone that if you have a dream and you really want to follow it, it's never too late. Just give it a crack but just make sure you cover the bases in terms of having a really solid structure and plan behind you.
2020 has been a challenging year for many people, actually for most people. What have you learnt about yourself, particularly through the course of this year?
Yes, well, I should just say that, I sort of made the decision in December to jump into the marketing business and really didn't kick off until mid-Feb. And of course, we were in lockdown by March. So I think one of my very good friends said to me, "That's the worst decision you've ever made. That business is it's a bad time to go into a new business." And I think the reality is that what I learned about myself is that I wouldn't say I'm jumping out of my skin positive every day. There are days where I do have doubts, but what I do know is I'm very self-aware of when I feel like that, and I actually just say, it's just a day where you're just not. You're not feeling it and you've got the weight of the world on your shoulders, or you feel like, things aren't going to happen the way you wanted them to. And just, give yourself a break. You don't have to be Superman every single day of the year. And some days you're just not going to be. And I think you've got to be realistic about yourself. And in those situations, I think, we got towards the end of the last month in Victoria here of the lockdown. And I think probably everyone was struggling, mentally, just because you feel trapped and you just can't do things that you want to do. And people are struggling around you, and it does make it very difficult. So I feel like I've learned that I am pretty resilient, and that I can push through things. And I sort of reflect back that when times got tough, I thought back to my grandfather, and his saying that he used to say to me is that no matter what happens, just keep going. And that's pretty much what I followed, is that, just keep going. You've got the plan, you know what you're doing, have faith in yourself, keep learning, keep open mind to learning. And you don't always have to have all the answers. You can actually learn them and work them out and just be honest about that. So I've learned a hell of a lot, I have to say, through the COVID period. It's been as much as it's been challenging, it's also been a great learning curve.
Paul, can I just extend on what you're talking about there? And you and I have obviously had personal conversations around what this time has meant for us. What I'm keen to know is, and for you to share, is how did you maintain your energy? What did you do to keep yourself mentally sharp during this time where there is so much happening around us that's unpredictable?
Great point, George, and great question. Probably a number of things. So one of the things I realised was that I was in a new industry and I needed to learn it really well. So I dedicated myself to activity that would actually really be sort of proactive and invest in my long-term future. So I completed 3 diplomas during the lockdown period in digital marketing, and really tried to put the time to good use and really focused on what was important during those periods of time, and kept a bit of a structure around that, so that, kept myself a bit accountable to it, and tried to make sure that I was doing all the things that would eventually pay off. And pleased to say that they have. And I think also, on top of that, just small things like, keep going out for exercise, keep going for walks. This morning I looked at my watch, it was 6 a.m. and I'd run 4K in the morning. So set, some habits that actually look after not just work, but look after yourself. And then other things that I felt really good about that made me feel good was actually helping other people. So, I started quite a lot of work, quite a lot of content that I put on LinkedIn, starting up music. Music is medicine. And I love music. So it was really about giving people a bit of fun and a bit of happiness, because sometimes our social feeds can be pretty negative and there's a lot of bad news. And I just felt like we need some positivity out there. So created the Music is Medicine, which was Friday post on LinkedIn, and everyone contributes to a theme, and I post that on a Spotify playlist on a Monday, and people really seem to take to it. I mean, there was some of the posts have, quite a lot of reach, up to 12,000 views, so I think it really did, catch on. And I think when you're doing things that give value to other people and actually add to their day, even if it's a really small thing, I think that, it makes you feel really good. And I felt that then sort of came around in a circle, because I had people contacting me, because I put out quite a lot of positive messages around the time, and probably partly for myself and partly for other people. But the reality is that, people were contacting me who I didn't know, and saying, thank you so much for your news feed. I watch it all the time. It's actually really awesome, because you're one of the most positive people that's putting stuff out there. So, if I can do that and help, one person at least out of those particular posts that I do, then all the better for it. That's what it's all about. So I think those sort of things, that's what gives you energy. That's what, it's almost like everything returns to you that you put out there. And if you put out really great stuff, you get great stuff back eventually. And if you put out bad stuff, you're probably going to get the bad stuff back. So it's really making sure what you put out there is what you want to get back.
Paul, there's two themes there around the Music is Medicine. You've done it consistently, and it projects a positive voice when we all need things that are positive. It's very easy to get lost in news feeds, whether it be Facebook or even LinkedIn, to get yourself a little bit down. So the fact that you've done that consistently speaks to, again, that discipline that you spoke about. If we can leave 2020 behind for the moment and we focus into 2021, you work with a number of entrepreneurs and business leaders. What do they do consistently around their decision making that's setting them up for 2021? And the second part to that is, what's their attitude towards digital marketing that enables them to succeed?
Look, it's such a great question. And what I would say to you is that it's about mindset. It starts with mindset. And there's people who are taking the attitude that, prepare for all contingencies, which is clearly what you should do. However, really focus your attention on growth and opportunities. I think that, one of the things that people sort of miss out on is opportunities, because they're kind of stuck in what they are doing day to day and not thinking about where the growth opportunities are. And so when you talk about things like digital marketing, there's still quite a lot of people who are very late to the game on it, who haven't really put a lot of time into it. I think one thing that the COVID has done is put a bit of focus on the fact that, people, in order to interact and transact with them, you need to have a pretty good setup in terms of your online presence. But I think there's still a lot of people who are trying to catch up on that game. And I think in 2021, there'll be more and more evolution of that, people actually understanding how they can better present themselves online and take the opportunity online. And for businesses that are customer facing, that are, for example, retail or service businesses, how do they actually integrate those? And we've talked, I think omni-channel's probably been talked about since like 1990. And I still see examples of businesses that just haven't got the omni-channel, if you call it that, the integration of the customer service from end to end right. So there's a lot to do. There's a hell of a lot to do in 2021 in terms of a bit of catch up for some. The leaders in those businesses, they're not just thinking about 2021, they're thinking about 2025. So they're thinking about, how do I actually build and scale and grow my business in a nice, even way that actually will prepare me to be, future proofed. And so they're looking at, what are the trends that are coming? How do we actually, be ready for those? The evolution of AI and how even, everyone's using AI every day. They probably just don't realize it. So Google itself uses so much AI to actually come up with the search results that you actually get when you type a search in your phone. So there are so many things that people sort of take for granted, but they will continue to evolve, and businesses need to be on top of those trends and the technology as it evolves. And the ones that do will always, obviously prosper because they've actually invested early and they've had a plan to do that.
And what are some of those emerging trends in digital marketing?
Yeah, well, I think the emerging trends are, the evolution of things like, you're looking at things like, obviously retargeting of late has been very popular, where, you basically get followed around by ads. I think the one thing to think about in terms of digital marketing is being authentic and being real, and realize that you're actually talking to people, and you don't have to sell at them all the time. And I think that, we probably went through a period where, pushing products, pushing sales was really the key sort of messaging that goes out there, and everything must have what they call a call to action to buy. I think now people are, sort of seeing through that, and a little bit skeptical just with the way the world is at the moment. And I think that brands that actually have more of a purpose and they project that, they actually have a right strategy around lifestyle. If they're a lifestyle brand and they present themselves in that way, I think there's some real opportunity there, for brands to continue to evolve, with those sort of trends, using the fact that people are looking for more authenticity means that you can be more relatable. You can show a brand, obviously every brand wants to show that it's perfect, but there's just no such thing, and everyone knows that. So it's good to have aspiration, but at the same time, I think some of that can also be tempered by having a laugh at yourself. And so I think, you only have to look at things like TikTok. I don't know if you've seen the guy who went viral on his longboard going to work, drinking the cranberry juice, and huge amounts of reach and views, and companies have, quite rightly and smartly jumped on that. Ocean Breeze, was able to give him a truck and all those sort of things. And so I think you'll see the evolution of that continue, where, companies, they look at those opportunities and be quite opportunistic in some of these platforms to actually jump in. Because really, I mean, if anyone had have tried to design an ad like that, it would have been shot down in flames in a meeting room. It would never have got out. Yeah. So the reality is that who knows what's going to go viral, and companies just need to be very nimble and understand that there are opportunities out there on all the evolving platforms, and audiences are always changing where they spend their time. So obviously TikTok, I think, is probably it's certainly the way that the audience is moving is getting older in TikTok. So it becomes more mainstream, and guess what? Then more ads will probably flow out of it, and then there'll be a new, because everyone thinks it's not cool anymore. So there'll be a new platform. So it's a bit of a cycle, but that will continue to evolve as well. And the algorithms that drive those also will continue to evolve to show people different types of feeds and things that actually are relevant to them. So there's a lot going on, George. I have to say, like, it's, you can probably talk for hours about the evolving trends of technology and that happen in the world at the moment.
And Paul, digital marketing is a mystery to so many business leaders and even entrepreneurs in terms of how to start off and what to do. Can I focus on specifically what are some of the biggest mistakes that you're seeing leaders are making in regards to perceptions or ideas about what digital marketing is and what it isn't?
Well, I think digital marketing is still marketing. So I think the standards that were applied years ago still apply. So, first point, know who your audience is and know who your core customer is. And if you've nailed that, then you would actually try and know where they hang out. And then actually go and hang out where they are and work out what actually makes them tick and engage with them and present to them relevant solutions to the things that they would have problems with. And that should be the, sort of the baseline. In terms of the biggest mistakes, I do see people, with a very short-term approach to marketing. So they want to do marketing today and they want to see KPIs, they want to put KPIs on it and they want to see results tomorrow. The beauty of digital marketing is everything is measured. However, you've got to play the long game sometimes, especially if you're in a B2B space. Long game is what's important. Otherwise, the behaviours that follow in terms of how you market are really skewed, and honestly, they come across as disingenuous. So I think the point is that you've really got to make sure that your plan, whatever that digital marketing plan is, and that strategy actually does meet where your audience is. And a lot of the times I do see people try and be everything to everyone. They've got a Facebook, an Instagram, a Snapchat, TikTok, they've got, all these different accounts. And it's like, but are your customers actually on that? You don't have to be everywhere, but it is important to be where your customers are. So I think they're probably some of the keys. And I think I see people doing a lot of things that could be misinterpreted as right or wrong. I guess with marketing, there is no right or wrong. A lot of it is testing, but sometimes they think that this is the silver bullet. This is the panacea. This is going to fix everything. I'm going to do this marketing and everything goes to roses. It's always an integrated plan as part of your overall business. And it's one strategy. You've obviously got, if you've got a sales team, they've also got to play their part as well. So the marketing might be warming up the market for your product or your business for the sales team to then have credibility and go and sell. So things do connect together rather than being done in isolation. So there's quite a lot of things. I mean, you'll probably find that there could be marketing departments out there that don't talk to their sales teams at all. And that would be a big mistake. The marketing team should be talking to the salespeople. They should be talking to the customers to find out if what they're actually going to put out there is really relevant and actually test it. So, there's some of the things that you could say, but again, it could be a never-ending list, George.
Paul, I think you might be right on TikTok. So people like me, so my daughter is 12, nearly 13, and so she has played a little bit on TikTok, busted out a few of those moves. So occasionally I said, hey, Sienna, do you want to do one together? And she looks at me like, I'm from another planet. She's like, no way, Mum. And I think it is the older generation, shall we say, once we start wanting to have a little bit of fun with a particular platform, then of course there's a new underground movement for something new, because you can't have, apparently you can't have mums doing TikTok moves. It just doesn't work, particularly not for the 12 going on to 13-year-olds. So I think you might be right with that one. If you were advising a business, let's say there's a small business out there that's just starting out, maybe they've been around for a year or so and they've got $1,000 to spend on marketing, particularly on digital marketing, what would you advise them to do for maximum impact?
Wow. I think depending on the product, so it's just very general advice, I would start with their website, to be honest. I would look at their website and see what needs to be done to make sure that's right. Normally, with any digital marketing, don't do marketing if your website's not right, because what happens is you're basically spending marketing money that will then push people to a store or to an online store or to a business. And if the website's not set up properly, let's say that you can't click the button that calls you. So, people then have to write down your number on a piece of paper and then type it in their phone rather than just clicking the button. If those simple things aren't right, you're actually really just wasting your marketing money. If your product isn't great, if you haven't really perfected your product, by marketing in it, all you're doing is amplifying the fault. So I would say to people, make sure your product is really good. Make sure your website is really good. Once those things are done and you can tick off and say, yes, they're really good, then I would say, okay, now's the time to look at marketing strategy. To be very honest with you, $1,000 won't take you very far. But the reality is that if you do lay out a plan and you do it a strategic way and you focus on where your customers are going to be, there's companies out there that do SEO, for example. SEO is very good, and so is Google AdWords for getting people to come who actually intend to buy your product because they've already typed in what they're looking for, and so they're searching for something because they're actually looking for a solution. So the intent of the buyer landing on your site is actually to buy your product. Therefore, SEO should work for you. If you're more of a lifestyle product, I see a lot of lifestyle products like, let's say, board shorts. I think there must be 75,000 board short companies. I went to buy a pair of board shorts, and I keep getting retargeted by 17 different board short companies across the world. And so, that's fine. That's how it works. But the reality is that is a lifestyle product because you've got people presenting themselves in a certain way, having fun at a party, cocktail party with the flamingo and the pineapple. And so they're presenting a certain way, and that works really well image-wise on Instagram and those sort of platforms. So again, it's really having a strategy that allows you to have a really great base to work from, and then market after that. So it's something that small businesses are really keen to do, but I always say hold back, make sure you've got it right first before you start leaping out spending money that probably you don't need to be spending right now.
So, Paul, what I'm hearing is that if your customer faxes you the order, you don't need the website.
Well, if you've still got a fax machine, I think you should probably get the National Trust to see if they would, look after it for you.
Whew, we don't have one of those. That's good. Paul, you mentioned before, so we're interested with all our impactologists that present over the course of the 3 days. We're really interested in your impact hacks. What helps you to have greater impact? Now, you mentioned your 6 a.m. 4-kilometre run. No, of course, grandstanding or boasting to anybody who hasn't gone and done a 4-kilometre run by 6 a.m. But in all seriousness, good on you, because that is an awesome effort. What else do you do besides running as your impact hack?
Good question. Look, I'm a real believer that, you've got to make yourself the best you can be to actually help other people. So one of the things I do, I do a few things. So reading would be one of those things, so I can keep learning, because I think the more you actually learn from the people who are probably maybe even a little bit smarter, or have done some different things or lived some different lives, I think that there's so much to learn there that actually can improve yourself. The second thing that I actually did, and maybe not everyone will do this because it's a bit unique, but I started my show. And the reason that I started my show was that I wanted to get positive messages out there from people who are doing some really great things. And so what that's done is it's actually allowed me to learn a lot about people, and actually improve myself by talking to some really great people that I probably would never have met. And at the same time, those people have then been able to also give back to me and my show and the people who watch that. So I think there's probably a number of things aside from getting up at 5 a.m. and going for a run. But I think those things are important. And I think the other things would be just family. Just spending time with my kids. Sometimes it's really hard to just turn off the laptop, especially when you're at home and we're all locked down and. Work is so close. It's actually too accessible sometimes. And so just to actually really shut things down and spend some quality time with the people who are close to you that you really love, I think that actually helps your productivity a lot, because it takes your mindset away from the general day-to-day. And, guess what? The 3-year-old doesn't care about any marketing. They just care about, is Dad going to get me an ice cream tonight? So, it's a nice thing to sort of deal with.
That's great. Thank you.
Paul, can I just expand on some of those impact hacks as well? Are you able to share your philosophy around networking? We've spoken about this in great detail, and I think your philosophy is so super clear, and more of us should be doing it. Can you share with us your philosophy around networking?
Sure. Well, I feel like networking for me is fun. I actually really enjoy it. What I find though is a lot of people maybe don't like networking because they feel like they feel maybe a little bit hesitant approaching other people who they don't know to have a discussion. I always look at it that the reality is that you've lost nothing in terms of talking to someone who you might not have met before or come across before, and especially through LinkedIn these days, it's very, very easy to be networking. I do look at it that when I meet someone, I ask myself some questions. What can I learn from this person? Is there something that I can get out of this conversation that would maybe I can learn, or a little gem or a nugget? Is this someone maybe I can collaborate with? Maybe there's something I can do that would help them and they can help me, and we can work together. And so, if you start to think about, and is there a potential here for a long-term relationship that would be really beneficial? And, when you meet people that you connect with and you get along really well with, and you can, sort of be on the same level and the same mindset, it really does help. And even when they're not the same mindset, when they're people who might challenge your views, that's actually a good thing too. And I think that that actually helps you grow as a person and actually get better. So, I would say to anyone, whether you're LinkedIn doing networking through LinkedIn, or whether you're doing networking through a Facebook group, or whether you're doing networking through, there's obviously organisations out there like a BNI or any of those sort of organisations, and heaps of networking groups at this moment in time out there. I would say go for it and give it a crack, and you've absolutely got really nothing to lose, and all you've got to gain is new friendship groups and people that you can actually lean on when you need them. And I've found that very much so in the last, especially the last 12 months. I think that, and especially when you start a new business, should I say, it's probably one of the things you should do most when you start a new business is reach out to your network and let them know what you're doing, but also garner a bit of support. And, those people who you've got great relationships with, or people who you haven't seen for ages, but still have maybe worked with or been friends with before, will support you all the way. So I agree, George. Good question. Networking vital in this day and age.
So Paul, in closing, we've got a standard couple of questions that we ask all our guests. So it's a little bit more on the fun side, but it reveals a lot about the individual. So if you're on a video call with your 18-year-old self, what advice would you provide to young Paul?
I think when I was 18, probably had no idea about anything, but I would probably just say...
but knew everything.
Yeah, well, that's the problem, isn't it? I would probably say there's no pressure. Just don't put the pressure on yourself to feel like you have to be somewhere at some stage of life, according to what other people have done or maybe think you should do. Don't worry about what other people say. Be yourself and map your own journey and just be comfortable in your own shoes. And that's probably the most important thing, is to really just work out who you are. And so enjoy the journey. But yeah, give yourself a break. Don't put too much pressure on yourself, and you'll find the way if you're true to yourself. So that would be my advice.
And the second question is a game of word association, Paul. So you ready for this?
I'll give it a go.
Okay. Cinema industry.
Popcorn.
Australia.
Very lucky country.
Health.
Extremely important.
Family.
Love.
2020.
The bin. No, actually, really, no. Opportunity.
2021.
Huge opportunity.
Paul Harrison, thank you so much for joining us on Impactology Live. We always love chatting with you. We've just shared it with the world today. We really appreciate your time, your insights, but your authenticity as well. We absolutely love your message and love what you stand for, mate. So thank you again.
Thanks so much for having me, guys. It's really appreciated, and you've done a great job with the event. So wish you all the best of luck for the next 2 days.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank
Good
you,
to
mate.
talk
Cheers.
to you.
No worries. See ya.
So next up, we have at 5 p.m, so which is in about 20 minutes, we have the wonderful Stella Casadeli, who's joining us from Greece. So don't miss that one. It is, as George has been saying during the day, go and take a little break. We will do the same, and we will see you back here in just on 20 minutes. See you soon.